Tonight on Chim's Talk Africa, we go back to the various interviews we've had with couples over the years as we seek to answer the question, what makes for a great marriage? Tonight on Chim's Talk Africa. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody else.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Hi there, welcome to this week's episode of your show. I'm Chim Onyibilanma, your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, over the years, we've had the privilege of having on this show so many different couples, and just to hear the testimony of God's grace upon their life, even those who have gone through major life-shaking experiences. And today we want to bring together as a collage the various interviews and try to distill an answer to the question, what makes for a great marriage? You know, when I normally sit down with these couples, one of the first questions I would ask is, how did they meet each other?
I always knew Ntokozo Mbambo, a singer, because we're both from KZN. She's from Durban, I'm from Richards Bay, which is like an hour and a half away from Durban. So I always knew the singer. You know, Ntokozo has been 15 years for many years, because people have been saying Ntokozo Mbambo since was 15. Like, no, she's not 15 now.
They froze her at that time. Exactly. When she appeared on the stage of Joyous Celebration. Yeah. That was
it was
the age forever.
So I always knew her. Would meet in concerts, church conferences. You know, I just knew her as a fellow singer, you know, a musician in the industry, and I think I got to know her better when we started working with Joyous Celebration, because I think we joined the same year. Yeah. So when I arrived there, those members here as well. So we started working together. That was 2001. So we started working together. I think I actually got to know her, and I was like, this one, I can live with this one. Okay, I would say the rest is history. Yeah, and then I think I approached you, ne?
You approached me.
Yes.
No, I didn't say anything.
So tell us the first approach. Did you get a no the first time? Just tell us what the first approach was.
It was quite different, because before I approached her, I intentionally made she would call them deposits. You know the principle of sowing and reaping. You plant seeds.
A trip where you have not sown.
Exactly, you know. So I think it made it easier for me.
So what were you sowing?
Actions, words, you know, treat her special, different from others, because we're a group of people here.
And all of it intentional, because you had a goal.
I know that I love her, I want to marry her, you know. For us, the way we were raised, you know, and I would want to raise my children like that, is that when you get into a relationship, you should straight for marriage. It was not even like I was trying to see if this thing's going to work or not, you know. That part I did it before I even approached her, you know, to get to know her, you know. But I made those few deposits through actions, so that by the time I had to speak out, she was sold out.
No, that's exactly what he did. I think by the time he approached me, because of these deposits that he had already made and because of the friendship that we had already developed, I was already on board.
At what time during the deposit or before did you feel, this might be the guy?
I think it took a while, because I'm very slow, you know, and I'm a church girl. I'm a typical church girl. So anything that I don't do those things. Anything that had to do with boys, I was just like, nope, stay away from boys. So I grew up in that kind of environment, and I think it took a while for me to get the pictures.
That's what it's about.
I actually kind of like him. You know, this could work. And the beautiful thing about it is that I had a very strong relationship with my mom. Is that I told her about it, and you know, so I'm a firm believer in getting confirmation from our seniors, you know, who know us and who also see the future as well. I always say my mom was always prophetic, because before I even said the name, she already knew who he was. And it was so important to get that confirmation from her, and she did. And she was like, I know, yeah, I approve, you know, and the rest is history.
Sure. We met in Polokwane.
Polokwane, yeah.
We went to a church together there, but we didn't start dating then.
Yeah.
We were just friends then. And yeah, that's how we met at church.
At church.
Yeah. Okay, for the first time when I saw him, he was interpreting for one powerful evangelist who came to our church then. And as I was seated down, it's so amazing, as I was seated down there, and you know, I was still very young, even in faith.
Yeah.
As he was busy interpreting, it was like somebody was whispering into my ear to say, if you are going to get married, that man is going to be your man.
Wow.
So I was still a child. I don't know what was happening then. But later on, I even forgot about that. And as time went on, he was a student pastor then.
Okay.
He kept on coming to our local church. We both come from the same church.
Okay.
Weeks later, this woman came to me to say, you know what? I saw your husband. Now, me being me, I was like, husband? I'm not even ready for a husband. I forgot that.
The experience you had before.
Yes. So she told me, I saw your husband. And as I was surprised, I went surprised, and she said, your husband is Pastor Lichuti. You know, I just tried to brush that off because at the same time I was still a kid and I was very, very focused. I was a very focused young girl then in the church. I also joined the intercession team.
You wanted to grow spiritually. You don't want all
that
this
was my
talk of
focus.
men.
But still, I could not even, you know, remember
what God has spoken
what
to you
happened.
before.
Yes.
So finally he came to you.
Finally, they spoke. He told me that the woman, the very same woman, spoke to him, and he was also surprised.
Michael was doing a mission at Cape Town University, and I was teaching in Cape Town, but one of the people on the team at the last minute was unable to take part because she got malaria. So they asked me, the person in charge asked me if I would come on the team, as well as my teaching, and Michael always says that's a sovereign mosquito. So that was the reason why we got together. And
sovereign mosquito bite. How about that?
We were attending two different churches, and the church that I was at, my parents had attended since before I was born, in fact. They were elders at the church, and the leadership of our church and the leadership of Musi's church had a connection, and over some time decided that they were going to merge the two churches. And so I was probably about 15 at the time, and Musi is 4 years older than I am. I was in the worship team on our side, and I was part of the youth leadership, and Musi was the youth pastor at the church that he was attending. And so we got to know each other through that merge, and we were very close friends up until the age of when I was about 20. And yeah, then we started dating. It was kind of over a lunch for me, where my feelings for him as my best friend changed into something more romantic. And yeah, the rest is history.
We were, as we said, we're good friends, and I did what you should never do. I invited her to a wedding as a first couple of dates, and then I was like, yeah, let's just see, you know. I feel like you should come with me as my partner to this wedding, and it was like, oh, I think she got a bit freaked out.
A lot of pressure.
I knew coming back from that wedding that she could stay, but like I used to go to church as the youth pastor, and she'd lead worship, and sometimes it get a bit confusing as to who we should celebrate.
Oh, good. That's good. We tell that story sometimes. For me, I think, remember 9/11?
Yeah.
September 2001.
Yeah, 2001.
There are times in life everyone remembers some certain dates where they were.
Mm-hmm.
For us, we were. I was flying to the U.S. at the time, and I was going for a conference. And as soon as we got into U.S. airspace, that's when the whole World Trade Center events happened. So our flight was diverted to Canada. And so I spent 2 days in Canada in a resort somewhere, and during that time we were talking on the phone and sharing things, just sharing what's going on. After that time I got a chance to go back into the States, but I couldn't go to where I was going. My conference was cancelled, and so we drove down to where she was living in Delaware. So in that time everything was in flux, it was in turmoil, we just kind of different. So we began to just talk and just share with each other. We spent time together, we spent some days just talking and just renewing our friendship again. And at the end of that time I just remember thinking, you're someone that I can trust. I can trust you with my life, with my secrets, my things my future thoughts, my future plans, and my past mistakes. Everything just sort of made sense. And so that's when it sort of clicked that this is the kind of person that I've been looking for. I should be looking for, not just for a friend now, but for a spouse. And then that's when.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
I had to travel all the way from Zimbabwe to meet him.
Tell me how it happened.
My father is South African, and I grew up in Zimbabwe and Zambia. And when I was a bit older, I was planning to immigrate overseas, and my dad said to me that go to South Africa, you've got family there, you haven't met them, go spend some time there, and then you can travel. And on my trip here, I think I met him in the first probably couple of weeks of me being here.
Wow.
And that's how we met, through a family member.
When she walked through the door where I was, Jim, I went, that's my wife.
Oh, you went there?
I said immediately, that's my wife.
What informed that?
Nothing, just God. God whispered and said, that's your wife walking through the door.
Look, I think for me, when I met him, I met a whole load of people as well, because I had a family member that was in school with Zane.
Okay.
And when I came to South Africa, they took me around and we visited people. They showed me the sights and everything. So I met him in a very social setting, and there were lots of people there, lots of distractions, But we started meeting up more regularly, spending time together.
So you intentionally planned those meetings because he knew already.
I planned the meetings. I planned the meetings. Megan didn't know. I don't think she. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, he had an ulterior motive, you see. Yeah.
I thought he was just a nice guy.
Yes, and he was. And I think that's what struck me first and mostly about Zane, is that he is a good man. And they're very hard to find. And there are very few men that can commit unconditionally. And he is one of those men that does that. He commits with his whole heart. If he's in something, he's in it 150%. And in this day and age, and even in those days, 30 years ago, to find a man that can stand his ground, stand for what he believes in, commit fully, there were no games or, let me see, if I do this, she'll do that, or if I say this, how will she respond? There was none of that. There was no... it was just very open and very honest. And I think for me, that was, as a woman, and I think any woman will resonate with this, that's what you look for. When you're looking for somebody to share the rest of your life with. And when we met, we weren't really saved. I think God had just started speaking to Zane. I wasn't saved. I grew up in the Methodist church. And, so even at that time, I knew that I was looking for something. I knew I was looking for steadfast. I was looking for faithful. I was looking for somebody that would be there for me forever and unconditional. And that's what I found.
You know that when we talk about building anything, we talk about foundation. So my question to the couple would normally go into the area of what were the foundations they had themselves, and what are the key foundations? How important are foundations to a successful marriage?
I think that the biggest thing in our marriage has been communication.
Okay.
And I think what also helps is the fact that we work together. So everything that happens, it happens. We are fully aware of it, of what's supposed to happen and everything. So it's never really a bit too much.
Yeah, well, I think marriage is centered around love and respect, and it's all born out of God, and it must be centered around God. Relationships could be probably difficult if you take God out of them, and to have God in your relationship is one of the biggest things that you can have, because His word always guides you. When one is going astray, calls you back. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey for us, and trusting God for many more years, and even raising kids to
watch them grow.
To watch them grow and know God and lead them in that way.
What have these couples found as the secret of lasting love?
You have to be called to this. If you're not called to this work, it's too hard. It's not easy. And it's difficult because we weren't able to do things together like most people can. There has an element of sacrifice, but if you're called to it, it's not a problem. And it does mean that we had to learn to understand each other. When he was tired, I couldn't demand things from him. And there's a lot of unselfishness in marriage that has to be exercised. Just accommodating to the schedule, to each other's needs. There's work that has to be done in a marriage, and when you've got a lot of demands on it, even more work.
Yeah.
I don't know that we always did it right, but we tried.
Yes, that was a deliberate strategy, and I concluded that, and I'd heard that once people are over 40, and that's what I did, 2 holidays a year. So I took a reasonable break in July and then a longer break in December, January.
With the whole family?
Yeah, with the whole family. And then Carol and I were careful about getting weekend times together. We would go away to farms, or we would have quiet weekends here. That was all very important. And keeping the Sabbath principle, trying to keep the Sunday a special day, or if I was preaching, it would be one other day to take off and to give each other time. Maybe we should have given each other more time. When one looks back, it's hard to weigh it up. But we were conscientious. We didn't just let it all roll over us. We tried to resist where we were getting it wrong, and then work over it to try and get it right.
I think it's really just, I always think about the fact that there's only 3 days that you need to worry about. You sort of think about yesterday. Did you love your spouse yesterday? Did you love them today? Will you love them tomorrow? Okay. And it's almost as if you take, what my point is to take it each day as it comes, and to take that day's challenges, to try and keep short accounts with one another. That's something that I've had to learn, to try and just settle things between you when there's a niggle or something you need to talk about, and to take each day as a choice to love your spouse, as a choice to be together, as a choice to keep following after the things that God has set before you. And I think for us, one of the biggest things is just to laugh. We love to laugh. We love to joke with one another. Sometimes Musi jokes with me and people are really surprised about the things he says, because we just try not to take ourselves seriously. And the thing, I'm really not a great cook, and he teases me about my meals, and we just laugh about things like that, because that's what makes us who we are. So laughter is one of the major keys to what keeps us in love with each other.
We laugh. I think it sounds simplistic and all of that, but I wish someone would have told me that earlier on, because sometimes, in our own walk of faith and everything, yes, you can think everything is so serious, everything you got to get right and everything is this. It just laughing means that we have a point of connection, means that we can tell each other stories. But we've tried to infuse that value even in our kids, that you can get it wrong today. It doesn't mean it's permanently like that, right? Tomorrow you just wake up, you start afresh, and so we've had it's been one joy, and if, I suppose that would be that, and just be always. We have you're fighting to stay in or fighting to get out. I just keep fighting to stay and fighting inwards. You fight inwards. You fight facing to go get in and learn to live light.
I think it's really to accept your spouse for who they are and not who you expect them to be. And I believe that early in marriage I had such a very different idea of what marriage was going to be like, or what marriage to him was going to be like. And I discovered that it wasn't much of what I had originally envisioned or thought. It was better than that. But it needed for me to accept him as he was and not put him in a certain category or put any expectations on him beyond what God puts on him. And I just began to love him as the man that he actually is, and respect him and to honor him and to really embrace his culture, to embrace his family and his calling. Not that my own calling has by any means been shelved. He supports my calling and I support his calling, and together we're making an impact. But I really believe that it's just to love your spouse for who they are and to accept them and to stop trying to change.
Don't be the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. I just stopped trying to change him. I mean, of course, I still work on his wardrobe. Sometimes he needs help.
And for you, Feb, what is the thing you've learned?
So many things. We've been sharing online for the last couple of days. What some things that we've learned in marriage that helped us do that. You shared one about how a wife's commitment deepens when the husband defends her. And husband's commitment deepens when his wife
supports his ambitions,
and his dreams, etc. And for us, I look at that and I talk about for us, we've gone through where there's no social media to now where there's social media. I think one thing we have to learn is that we have to put our closeness and our intimacy and everything first, and put everybody else outside. So social media can be where you
draw a circle around yourself. Okay,
right?
One word, and it's going to shock people: fight. Fight. Yeah. But fight for your marriage. Okay. Not fight with each other. Okay. And we've had fights, My wife is very independent and very free thinking. She doesn't sit back. She doesn't sit back, So we have interesting fights, but we make sure, and we learned very early, I think, to not let the fight carry on for too long. In fact, don't let the sun go down when your anger became our thing. Because I would punish my wife with my silence. She's a communicator, and I would realize that. So I would just retreat, and I knew it would hurt her, and I had to repent of that and change it. And instead of fighting with her, we've now learned to fight for this marriage. 30 years. 30 years is not a 30 years is not a short time. You've got to fight for what you want. You've got to fight for what you believe in. Through the temptations, through the difficult times, through the no money, through whatever it is, through those times, you fight for this marriage. And I'm blessed to have had a woman who, even through the times when I was at my lowest, and I could literally pull the family with me. That she was there to help lift me up, you know. That because families, as we spoke in the other day about, the father is the anchor of the home. The father is when the father's there, that family flourishes. But when the father falls, you know, when wives fall, when kids fall, we're there to pick them up as parents. When dads fall, who's there to pick them up?
Nobody's there to pick them up.
And luckily, that's why God gave you a strong woman to be able to say, hey, I'm here with you. We're going to see this thing through. You know, my wife also likes nice things. Jim, let me say that. I think all women like nice things. And so there are very often times where she had to sacrifice wanting those things and so on, to be able to make sure that the basics are there, or that I don't lose my integrity or testimony because of not being able to supply. And it's a give and take thing. Over 30 years, you learn when to be strong and when to step back. You learn when to fight and when to say, okay, now's not the time to fight. You learn when it's time to be quiet. That's the most important thing. And when it's time to speak. 30 years takes you to learn that. You know, you don't come after 3 years and go, we're the perfect couple. No. In the first 3 years of the marriage, you found out stuff. You're like, who did I marry? Oh my word.
I don't recognize this person.
I don't recognize this guy.
What have I got in myself?
You know?
Exactly.
And so you work it out. And I'm glad to say that we've been through so much. You know, 5 children also, and just the way we God has been. You know, the very first, when she told me she was pregnant, this was a nice thing. And I said to her, Megan, you know, I've just given my heart to the Lord. I believe we must, whatever happens now, we've got to pull God into this.
Yes.
And we're going to make God the third party in you and I's relationship and the baby coming. So we'll be four people walking this path. And it's been like that for 30 years, in that God has been
that's the
part of this relationship. Yes,
That's
He's
the
held
cord.
us, He's bound us.
I don't know if you would call it a secret, but I think for us what's really been important is that is that unity. So when Zane said we need to make God part of this, this is what I'm going through right now in my life, what do you think about it? And I was okay with, you know, I said, okay, that makes sense. So we were in agreement. I think maybe that's the word, is to be in agreement. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree. But you're still in agreement in the sense that, okay, you know, your position is this, my position is that. We're going to agree to disagree. But in that disagreement, we're going to learn a little bit more about each other in this particular aspect. And for us, I think it's been that unity. Whatever decisions we've made together. Whether it's around finance, children, our faith, which church we go to, where we live, what school we send the children to, we've been in agreement. And when we haven't been in agreement, we've had to fight to get to that agreement. Yes, because as you said earlier, the flutters in the heart and, you know, the stomach palpitations, that goes away. You know, after the first couple of years, that doesn't last. And the secret is to try and not make it, no, it doesn't go away completely.
Yeah, but
it doesn't go away completely.
You can't hold, what you're saying that you can't hold, it's like our feelings.
Yes,
We need our feelings, we can't be human beings without emotions.
Absolutely.
Feelings, they are fickle.
They are very, very fickle. And that, you know, because the storms of life will hit us.
Yeah.
Jesus said in this life we are going to have trials. And we do have trials. And when those storms come, what is your rules of engagement? What have you guys agreed upon? Have you decided, okay, well, when we fight, this is how we're going to fight? Because we will have arguments. We will have difficult times. How are we going to approach it together?
It's always interesting to sit back and just hear what these couples have to say about what they have learned from their own experience about marriage.
Well, one of the biggest lessons is you can do more when you're in agreement and you're doing things together. That support that you have for one another always takes you further than you'd have been able to go alone, because you get sound advice. You sometimes you're a bit careless about your thinking, and you need somebody to really call you back and make you see some of the downfalls and the pros and cons.
From your big.
I think I don't listen. I normally go to her convinced, and I think once I'm convinced about what God wants to do, it's difficult to take me out of that space, and I become very resolute and try and show her if I ever have to. But I mean, it's not really been a struggle. She normally just comes around and we agree on what.
So you said the first thing is you do more together.
Do more together, absolutely. But also, I think when you work with somebody that you trust, you don't look back a lot. You don't doubt their intentions, and truly is that they can protect you from things that you yourself don't see. And you need somebody like that who'd make you watch out for certain things. So it protects you also from losing out in spaces where you'd have lost out because you didn't have good counsel. So I love the fact that when you're working together, you also get good counsel from the person that you're working with, especially if you are of the same heart. So, but also I think even more important is also you're not running in different directions. It helps you to spend a lot of time together. You see how God has brought the both of you to that same purpose, really, and we it's really complementing one another, doing the same thing. And one might be the face, but doesn't mean one is more important than the other, because at the end of the day, it doesn't work without the other person. So it's different roles. Knowing your roles is very important. Knowing what your responsibilities are and executing those well helps the process to really just go smoothly. So some of the things that having a good partner that really is able to contribute to what you're doing as opposed to take out of it just helps you to do things a bit easier.
We have a movie night every Friday night with our kids, so that's important for us. But like also we'll watch a series together, which kind of keeps us, again, like I mean, if I use a bad example, like often people will say, a family that prays together stays together. Like I can tell you now, we tried praying together in the morning. I'm a morning person, she's not. If we were to pray together in the morning, things that manifest would not be godly. So it just these types of things that help you realize that if you, that's actually the most important thing. Is like for us, we've sought to say what works for you and I, rather than let's copy and paste and try and be like that picture of that couple over there. Because what works for them doesn't work for us. You know, like people are like, just only watch church movies. I find some church movies boring. Sorry to all the church people. They're just too simple for me. You know? So I'm sorry. Like, you know, we just find what works for us. Yeah?
There've been a lot of difficult times, I think, in the marriage, but I think one of the most difficult for me was when I was growing in my career. When I met Zane, as I said, you know, I supported him, and I kind of kept myself back. I didn't push as much as I could. And when I realized that I needed to, there was more to me than what I was currently presenting in my family and in society and in the church. And that was a difficult thing, because I had to try and kind of balance this guilt of studying going to work during the day and studying at night. And we had 2 young children, and trying to balance that also with being the wife that Zane needed at the time. So that was really difficult for me. And you know, there was often the temptation to give up, to say, you know what, let me just leave it. It's just it's too much work. And as I grew in my career, and I got, you know, better jobs, that sort of thing. For me, it was managing that and keeping in my head that I'm still not the head of the home. I'm still not, you know, I may have studied and I may have developed in my career, but at the end of the day, I'm still a wife and I'm still a mother. And when I come home at night, that is what I come home to. So to try and balance that took me a very, very long time. It was a challenge. It really was, because I was tempted to, after work, you know, people would say, oh, you know, the boss would say, come, let's go for drinks, or let's do this, or, you know, we need you to put a bit of extra time. And I was very tempted to do all of those things for the benefit of my career. And I had to realize that, yes, you have a career, but you have your family, your home, your calling, and this is where the importance lies. This is important because it's fulfillment, but this is even more important. This is the priority. And I think sometimes as women, we get lost in that.
I think those most challenging times are when you find, as a man, you're not providing. In whatever sense, because there's an expectation as a man that you must provide in this way or that way or that way. And I was lucky and blessed to have a wife that could stand by me through those times when I couldn't be all that I wanted to be. And that was difficult, and that was testing for me, like, I can't do this one. And by God's grace, I have a wife that went, it's fine. Wow. We'll work through this together. That gives any man power and courage to go, hey, listen, I can then do it, you know, it's fine. And also, for me, during those times when I heard my wife, and she does it now regularly, when she was praying for me, Jim, that was a vital thing, because we learned very early on to pray for and with each other. And it's something we speak about with couples. It's the most intimate thing you can do. So she puts me there. You know, once a woman puts a man into his position, you can't help but you have got to take that position now, you know. And you feel that you're being affirmed by your wife. Because very often women can, because they're working, men aren't working, they earn more than men, and so on, so they can supersede a man, and talk you down. But this is a woman just supporting her, and that changed a lot for me in my relationship with myself, knowing my position in the house, and also with my wife, you know. And that for me is beautiful. That's the most intimate thing you can do, is to pray for and with each other.
And to wrap this off, I think it's possible to watch all of this, some of us, and we're going like, wow, I have a real serious problem here. My marriage is nothing to write home about. So the question I would put to this couple is, how can a bad marriage be restored?
Number one, your love and respect for the Lord. It's impossible to respect the one you don't love. Never allow your love for the Lord to die, because gradually your respect for the Lord will die.
Go down.
Number two, your love and respect for your spouse. When you see that gauge going down, you must know that there's another door opening. And marriage is an institution. There must be accountability. You can't be a boss in your marriage as a pastor. Our wives are not trophies that we use as and when we want. They are partners in this journey. We should treat them with respect. And God has a way of showing them some weaknesses. When they warn you, listen. But I want to say this, Pastor, walk away from preachers who don't fear the Lord.
Because like you said, that association robs you even of your fear of God.
Sir.
All I can say, Pastor, is that we should learn true forgiveness. But you cannot be able to forgive because we all learn forgiveness from the Lord. So if we are clinging to the Lord, the author of our marriages, you see, God has got principles. Every institution is governed by principles. You cannot not want to be governed by principles, and yet you want to, you know, get the fruits that
the benefits of it.
The benefits of it. Once you walk away from a principle, you must know that you are you're walking away from benefits.
I think it's important to avoid selfishness.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that in the beginning.
And be willing to serve each other. And then not to think of an escape. I've never thought of an escape from marriage. So you work things out and to keep short accounts, as Michael was saying, if there's something bothering you, and not avoid talking about it, keep communication going. And, well, you can go on.
Yeah, Michael.
Well, I think the development and cultivation of friendship is perhaps the biggest thing. I think doing things which build and establish friendship is really incredibly important. Take time to do things that are just the two of you together. And we say these things to our children. Make sure that you get time in the middle of all of this thing with kids, that you just go out together.
Yeah.
You do something together. You go for a walk together. You even go away for a weekend together. You build friendship, because that's most of life and most of marriage is built on the quality of these friendships.
I think love is not what you see other people do. Love is what you build. Love is what you decide you want to have with your spouse and with your future. So let God speak to you about what it is that He wants you to have in your marriage. But don't begin to look at everybody else and say, well, what they have is perfect, what I have is perfect. There's no perfect marriage. There are issues. Everybody has issues. But love is what you build, and it's what you bring into it that decides what comes out of it.
Wonderful.
I just believe that truly as a wife, that we have a responsibility to our husbands to nurture his dreams and to nurture his vision, and to find a way to support it, find a way to strengthen him, find a way to be that voice in his ear of reason, find a way to just be there for him when he needs advice, when he needs strength, when he needs someone to talk to. And you'll find that your marital bond will grow so much deeper when you take your eyes off of yourself and your needs and you put them on your spouse and their needs. And that's what I've seen with my husband. He treats me like the apple of his eye. He puts my needs before his needs, and I do the same thing for him. And I think because we prefer one another over ourselves, that's one of the gifts that we have in marriage that has helped us to remain strong, and has helped us to really be an example for other homes, because we're not all about us. We're about one another, and we're about our commitment to the kingdom.
Wow. Can I add one quickly in the last few seconds? I think for the African context, many people look at, and your external family want to come in and jump into your marriage and do so much. This happens all over Africa, from north, south, east, west. As a husband, you have to defend your wife. You have to let everybody know that this is your wife. It's not our wife, even though it's nice, our wife, but really, this is your wife. So you have to defend her, stand in between your family and her, stand in between whoever wants to try to come in there. Because at the end of the day, you always have to have someone you go back home with. Someone said one time, if there's going to be an argument between your wife and your family, your wife and somebody else, remember who will you go back home with that night. So choose carefully.
That's a wise man.
I think what we've said throughout the interview is just to keep what it is that makes you as a couple, what keeps your strength, to keep that alive, and not to compare yourself with others, because those are things that so I think don't compare yourself to others, and keep what is unique to you alive, and trust that the Lord has you, whatever it is He's called you both for, He will support, as long as you both seek hard after Him.
I suppose for me is, don't believe the lie that says marriage is settling down. There's nothing settling down about marriage, so keep pursuing. Hardness of heart and stagnation is what kills a marriage. It's not. Keep going, keep pursuing, keep dreaming, keep going, because when you are there, you are alive. Your kids are alive to mission. My kids don't feel they are being robbed when I'm not there. As tough as it is, but they feel like we are. If you phone my child, say to them, what does daddy do? They'll say, we're trying to make South Africa a better place.
Wow.
Keep going.
Jim, I said to you earlier in the other program that God is a God of second chance. It's never too late to fix things, you know. It's never too late to rediscover the spark that we spoke about, the butterflies in the stomach. It's never too late. I believe that if you work through something and you forgiveness is a big thing. Because you could have done something, I could have done something that offended Megan. And if she doesn't forgive me, we can never repair that. And if I never ask for forgiveness, we can never fix that. But I want to say to couples, God, you know, I know there are circumstances where there's abuse in families, physical abuse and emotional abuse, that God just goes, I don't want that marriage, because He hates divorce. The Bible teaches us God hates divorce. But if it's not that, then it's workable. You can work through it. You can find, especially if there's children involved as well. Children always blame themselves in the divorce and stuff. there's a possibility to repair things, you do it. You do whatever it takes to repair it. Because one day you're going to have to hold account for that, you know. So for me, that's what I want to say, just in a very short way. I don't know what your
Megan, what would you say to such people?
So I think for me, it would be, as Zane said, to fight for it. You know, it's so easy to give up these days. And even after 15 years, you know, the justification is I've tried for 15 years and I've worked at this, it's not working, we've tried everything. But God is a God of miracles. And we're making the assumption now that all of these couples are Christian couples. There are some couples who may not be believers, but at the end of the day, that family unit is worth fighting for. Because you don't just do it for yourself. You don't do it for your husband or for your wife. You do it for your children, and you do it for your children's children, because there is a blessing that comes with that unity. There's a blessing that comes with that perseverance. There's a blessing that comes with teaching our children that, you know, that you'll see mum and dad have their moments sometimes, but they're pushing through and they understand, you know, and for our children to see that growing up, that mum and dad are willing to fight for this relationship. It teaches them to persevere. It teaches them to go have a goal and push for that goal no matter what it is. And in everything as parents, that is our responsibility, is to show our children, to lead our children, because they see not by what they learn not by what they see, what they hear us say, but by what we do and what they see us doing. And when they see us fighting for something, even against all odds, it gives them a strength and a perseverance within them, because they can see my mum did it and my dad did it, so I can also do it. So for me, that would be it, is to remember that it's not just for you. You know, we're so caught up in a society of me and I and how I feel and what I want and what's good for me, and you know, I don't want that. When we don't realize that we are a village. Man is not an island. You know, we thrive in community. We thrive in family, and anything that separates that does harm to community and does harm to family.
I hope you've been blessed by this, just going back and listening to this wonderful, rich assortment of wisdom. I pray you've been blessed, and I pray that God blesses your home, whether you're single or you're married, that the grace of God, the mercy of God will be upon your home, and that God will cause you to know joy, and you'll be happy and walk in His will. That's where we're going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you same time, same station next week. Bye. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody. Boss for coming on the show. And thank you for joining us.
I tried to whisper it.